Alright guys, let's paint an easy winter forest scene. First up, we're going to create a sky in the distance, so use any smooth, soft brush you want. Don't worry about too much, it's going to be covered a lot by leaves and trees. Next up, always name your layers, and here's where we're going to take any texture brush or a leaf brush, anything that you prefer, and just paint in orange tones, make them lighter and brighter in the bottom and darker towards the top. You all will see why. This will help later on in this painting. After that, we're going to start adding in some trees. So use any brush you want again, just paint them white at the bottom, make them taper towards the top. Just going to add some perspective to this piece along with some depth. Okay, next add in a ground layer, and after that add in another layer which we're going to use to add in some more trees. Now the trees on this layer, just make them darker and a bit thicker than the previous ones. This is also going to add some more depth to this forest and will also help the composition a bit more. Do this again and add some more trees right in the foreground on top of the ground layer and make these trees the thickest and the darkest. Next up, brighten or darken the background if you need to, along with how the painting is going. And here's where we start adding details. Add in branches, broken trees, anything you want. As this is your forest, make it as detailed or less detailed as possible. Whatever you need, go crazy or just relax and have a nice time painting. Next up, we're going to alpha lock all the tree layers, take the same leaf texture brush that you used and add some texture to the trees, all of them, right from the background to the foreground. This is going to make them seem a lot more natural. Alright, so it's a winter scene, right? So we got to paint the ground in with some blues and grays. And this will also make it seem like a really good contrast against the oranges on the upper half of the frame. I've also merged the ground layer and the foreground trees together to make it easier for me just to texture and shade them at the same time. Next up, here's where we just gotta add some little details, some lighting, some highlights, some shadows. Take all the time you need, put on some good music, relax, and just add as much details as you want to your painting. Alright, so when it comes to the story of this piece, I had this idea of creating this wood collector type of character who goes around picking the dried branches and leaves to use as firewood and so on, or even sell them in this forest over here. And he also is accompanied by a pet. So after I sketch them in, I alpha lock the layer, use the same leaf texture brush, and just brush some texture onto them to make them sit into the painting as opposed to leaving them as flat. Okay guys, so that is the final painting. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If y'all want my brushes tutorials and so on, they're available on my Patreon. I've linked them in the description, and stay tuned for more, a lot more of these tutorials coming up.